Remakes, remasters, and re-releases. On one hand, they should be easy cash since the games getting refurbished are usually classics with a built-in audience. On the other hand, no game has a more demanding audience willing to pick the games apart like the classics. They don't remake the bad games that really need it after all, so every change and decision made by the developers will be scrutinized to the maximum possible degree. Even I am guilty of that, I have to admit. The Resident Evil 4 remake released in March of this year? Really? I could have sworn it was last year. Damn, my time perception is always screwed up. Well, anyway, the Resident Evil 4 remake was released and it passed the test with flying colors. Now, not everyone enjoyed it, and that's fine, but by and large, it was a well-received product by both fans of the original and newcomers. It did, unfortunately, had some of its most iconic lines and moments removed, but it also greatly expanded what it kept from the original. I calculated around the time of the release that it got about 33% of the original content cut. Yet, it still managed to be longer than the original game, which means that hey, at least we didn't get robbed. Well, now Capcom has decided to give us back about 90% of the missing 33% with the release of the Separate Ways DLC. That's right, the drill is back, the gondola is back, and even the laser hallway, they're all back, baby. They're remixed better than ever, but even more importantly, you get a grappling hook now. And just like that, Resident Evil Remake is now the complete package. Or is it? I'll let my feelings about that stew for a little bit as we get into what Separate Ways actually is. Okay, so first and foremost, going right into the important things, Separate Ways starts with Louis Serra vibing in a cell while another person gets viciously murdered, as one should do, before he is rescued by secret agent and resident sexy lady Ada Wong. And they even share a little dance and everything, and oh my god, the game has barely started and I am already fighting the urge to just call it Game of the Year. Everything about this intro is perfect, and it's the exact kind of spy movie with zombie vibes that I want from a game like Resident Evil 4. Well, anyway, let's move on before I get too distracted by the intro. Ada came to rescue Luis under orders from Wesker so she can recover the mysterious ember that he wants so much. And the plot of Separate Ways is all about the hijinks she gets involved in during her quest to both complete her mission while helping Leon complete his as well, with most of the scenes playing parallel to Leon's campaign, which is actually deeply hilarious now that we get to see what Ada was actually up to during the main story. When you play events from Leon's perspective, Ada feels like an almost omniscient presence. She's always one step ahead and seems to know everything that is going to happen, always has the best advice for Leon, and is always in control. Like she's completely avoiding all of the enemies or cutting through them like butter so easily that she can stop by once or twice to help her simp without missing a single beat. There's nothing that kills a character competence though as quickly as putting an actual player in control, especially one as bad as me. But even story-wise, it's still quite funny to see that every moment she helped Leon was actually basically a coincidence as she was passing by. Even better when she notices he's going to come up in like 5 seconds and before he does, she just hides in a corner just so that she can show up all mysterious-like to impress him. And the scenes where she just looks at pivotal moments of the story from a hole in the wall or something can be even better. The entire campaign almost plays like she's constantly stalking Leon at times. I guess it kills the magic a bit if you show what the teleporting character was doing in between the teleports, but you do get a hook shot, so everything's alright in the end. Gameplay wise, what even is Separate Ways though? Well, it's even more RE4 Remake. If you liked RE4 Remake, then, except for the hookshot, this is basically a miniature version of the main story mode. And I do mean that in every way. While you don't hit every boss battle from the original, pretty much every other enemy is present and accounted for. You will fight every mini-boss at least once, and as well as every enemy variation from the original story, though of course, due to the shorter duration, you won't get to fight them as many times. And you also get to visit the village, the castle, and the island, sometimes playing through segments you already visited in a different order, sometimes going through completely new sequences, in completely new places, and of course, we even got a few nice neat little puzzles. So yeah, the Chainsaw Man, the Chainsaw Lady, the animal-headed enemies, the Gahador, the Living Armor, the Regenerator, everyone is here! And in a way, this snack-sized approach to the original campaign, this approach of making it a bite-sized snack, really works. The main story was just a tad too long for me to want to immediately replay it, but Separate Ways is so condensed that I wanted to get back to it as soon as I finished it. Game said it took me 5 hours and 21 minutes to beat it, which, damn, it's already longer than the Resident Evil 3 remake, but it seems to not count cutscene time, and when you are messing around with the menus and stuff, and a few of my deaths might have been cut by the timer as well, because my Steam time was much closer to 7 hours, which is the one that I trust more, in this case, which is a very respectable time for something that costs as low as $10. I should warn though that I got every treasure and completed every side quest, so make no mistake, if you want to do the full experience, this is a very meaty campaign. The fact that you start slightly stronger than Leon and end up being able to carry an arsenal slightly less strong than Leon's endgame, which even includes the rocket launcher, means Separate Ways escalates really fast, much faster than the main campaign. So you really get to the main, shall we say, the upgrade beats, you get to them in quick succession. You feel like you are getting more toys or they're getting more powerful at a fast enough pace to not feel bored. Not that I felt bored in the original, but at the risk of repeating my words, there's just a condensed, faster feeling of escalation here due to the shorter duration that really works in the game's favor. Since the environments are a lot more closed and, shall we say, curated than the main story mode, the side quests are actually very welcome here. They are not too many and it doesn't take too long to finish them, so unlike Leon's story where I felt like they stretched the game a bit too much, in Separate Ways they stretch it just long enough for you to feel like they are the nice little bonus that they really are. And while yes, I did mention that every enemy has come back, obviously, not every boss has come back, and I want to say, while this DLC only has 3 boss battles, they're absolutely killer boss battles, every single one of them, remixed into some absolutely great and fun sequences. They are crazy, they are long, and they feel great to play through, having you dodging, parrying, and frantically changing your weapon as you need to find a better one to hit the new weak spot, or as simply as your ammo dwindles, and as the footage shows, I just love wasting ammo by panic firing, so I had to switch a lot. I totally love doing that, that's why I do it, trust me. There isn't much more to talk about in the gameplay department. Like I said, it's Resident Evil 4 Remake, but packed into a meaty, fun-sized snack. One that I personally might end up enjoying even more than the base game. I definitely want to replay this, while I haven't replayed the base game yet, but it is not perfect. A few sequences like the spike ceiling and the Inferno room, and the machine gun guy in the middle of the room, they are still cut. So unfortunately, the remake still isn't truly the complete version of the original game, and thus imperfect, and we must unfortunately cast it into the fires of hell. Do we really have to do that though? When scenes from the original like the drill, the gondola, and the laser hallway were cut from the remake, I must admit I felt a bit sad. Those were all classic scenes and I loved them, so obviously when the Separate Ways trailer came up showing a few of them, I rejoiced they were finally back. I did talk in my review from the main game about how much I wanted to be a fly on the wall in the meetings at Capcom to figure out just what the criteria for the content that they cut from the original was, and while I didn't think Capcom cut some sequences just because they were too ridiculous, hell, there were a bunch of ridiculous scenes in the remake, the shooting range became even more ridiculous, and in here, the laser hallways are even more ridiculous and cool than the original game. The fact is, I still didn't quite trust them, and I wanted to know if any budget or time constraints had led them to make the decisions. Hell, they might have just been some random unfortunate consequences, I don't know, somebody who was working on it got fired. We don't know, we just don't know. Games are made by many people and made from many pieces. But in the end, given how short the time between this DLC and the original release is, I think we can all make a very educated guess as to why they cut it. The fact is, at least for the content that returned in this DLC, they didn't cut it at all. In fact, they plan to use the extra time they got to polish it and use that time to make Separate Ways a truly unique DLC worth experiencing even if you already played through the main story. This, my friends, is the best possible result. The only even better timeline is the timeline in which this was included in the base game for free, but come on, we just got another free update to the Mercenaries as well. Let's not get too greedy. But more importantly, and I realize this is a very personal section of the video that is only going to relate to me, but more importantly to me is that this makes me feel bad. It just makes me feel real bad for doubting them at all when the game released, but listen Capcom, it's not you, it's me. I've been burned out so many times by different companies that seem to be led by executives who are basically aliens considering how detached they are from the audience, that the concept of a company actually planning this out and releasing it in the best way they possibly could, like this, might as well be fucking magic to me. I don't know how they pulled it off, but hats off to them. This is not the ideal gaming company, but this is the very basic thing this is the very basic way that a modern game company should work. But hold on a minute, let's not exaggerate or say anything that we are going to regret here. I am not saying that Capcom is your friend or anything like that, okay? They are still doing some shady things by selling the upgrade ticket DLC, and the price for some of those Street Fighter 6 cosmetics was absolutely atrocious, and you never know who is going to be running the company tomorrow, even if whoever is running it today is doing a good job, so keep a close look. Corporations are not your friends. Capcom is doing good, but still keep a close eye on them. But also, I realize now that I got almost everything that I wanted, that I'm kind of a twat for thinking that the only thing that I needed for the remake to be perfect were those things. You see, I like references. I don't think there's anything wrong for being happy when an artist puts in a reference to another thing that you like or brings back a beloved character. That's cool, and the Resident Evil franchise is basically running with that at this point. I mean, just look at how many fans freaked out when all of the main characters showed up to shoot at the zombie sharks together in Death Island, or whatever they did there. I didn't watch that movie yet. But I also don't want to become blinded by nostalgia. I don't want to become a reference guy and think only about the past, and that if they just do the exact same thing they did before, then that will be good enough. Just put even more drills and even more gondolas and that will make the game even better. I don't want to think that way. I don't want to be that person because honestly, it won't. It's not just about what comes back. It's about how it fits into the new way it's going. It's about the execution of everything and how it fits into the new context that a remake inevitably brings to it. And if I just look to the past, then I will miss all of the cool stuff that they added to the present, like the awesome Krauser knife battle or fighting monsters side by side with cool guy Luis. Now, this does not mean that we have to like new things just because they're new. I think we all know from some recent reboots and remakes that things can go very, very badly real quick, and unlike Suda51, I don't think we should kill the past. Let's preserve video games and keep the past around, like Capcom did by keeping the original Resident Evil 4 around, because those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it and yada yada. History and old games are pretty cool, let's be honest. But I don't think this has to be an everything or nothing issue either. We can like some changes, dislike other changes, and understand that the bigger the game is, and the more prestigious its legacy, the more elements the developers are going to have to juggle, and the more changes are going to happen that we are going to have individual opinions about. Unfortunately, there is no silver bullet to solve this problem. But I think, at the very least, some developers like Capcom have earned a certain level of trust, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trust Capcom and believe that they can deliver an even better product next time. I'm going to look to the future for now instead of the past, and oh my god, is that a Resident Evil 5 reference? I'm going to come!